Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for spending a few minutes of your time this afternoon to learn more about JobStreet.com. Today, we will be talking about how to help you source for talented candidates using the talent search service of JobStreet.com. But just before we begin, I'd like to do a quick check if you guys could hear me loud and clear, and if you could also see the screen I am flashing to you right now. A quick confirmation using our chat box will be highly appreciated. All right, so please let me know if you guys could hear me loud and clear. Thank you. All right, thanks everyone for sending a chat message. It is truly appreciated. All right, so let us get started with our session for this afternoon. Okay, but just before anything else, of course, I'd like to give out everyone a some quick reminders for you guys to be able to fully maximize our session for this afternoon. Everyone is actually placed on mute all throughout our presentation for this afternoon, but don't worry, you can still use the chat box to send in your questions or clarifications, and we will definitely address them before we close our session in 30 minutes or so's time. Okay? If you have any questions, please remember to send your chat to all organizers. Okay? This is a 30-minute webinar session for busy recruiters like yourselves. So we do hope that you will be able to fully utilize this webinar session this afternoon. Okay, so let me just introduce myself very quickly. My name is Herbert Cruz. I am one of the senior customer relations officer here in JobStreet.com, Philippines, and it is truly an honor to have you all this afternoon. I've been with the company for about 12 years already. I've had several years of experience in supporting our customers in diverse industries as well as in various segments. So thank you again, everyone, for spending your afternoon with us. Okay, so our learning objective is for you to be able to understand better, for you to be able to appreciate proactive sourcing, for you to be able to tap more relevant candidates out there in the market. So this will be our agenda for this afternoon. First, we will look at some of the talent market insights, where I will be sharing with you some a few interesting market survey findings. So for you to be able to understand the dynamics of talent market better. Then we will basically touch on the multi-sourcing strategy in recruitment. In today's competitive recruitment landscape, it is actually ideal that other than your job posting activities, that you also do additional tapping of candidates through the talent search service of JobStreet. After that, we will basically talk about how to help you utilize talent search system as provided by JobSheet.com. And lastly, we will briefly touch on the preparation and persuasion of candidates from talent search. So this is basically the most crucial stage of the hiring cycle because it may make or break your deal. And we will definitely wrap everything up by answering your questions, which you will be sending over at the chat box, and by me giving you the key takeaways for this afternoon session. So let us begin. Okay. All right. So to understand the dynamics of active and passive candidates in the market, we've actually commissioned a study that looks at the status of a group of candidates who already found a job. So in this survey, we actually asked candidates what were they actually doing before they landed the job. All right, if you look closer at our screen right now, the result is quite interesting. From this pie chart, you will see that about 75% of the candidates that we asked told us that they were actively searching and were making job applications. So that's expected. Candidates who are actively applying have a higher chance of being hired. Okay. However, another 22% of the candidates were merely monitoring the market and did not apply to any job advertisements. However, they were still able to find a job, possibly being approached by potential employers via talent search or being approached by any recruitment agencies. There were 3% who told us that they weren't doing anything at all. In other words, they were not the candidates, they were not actually looking for a job at all. Okay, so imagine if we only tap on the job advertisements alone to attract candidates. We would be missing out on the 22% candidates who are monitoring and may be qualified to fill in our vacancies. So as you can see, the conclusion from this survey is very clear. Job advertisement, although a very effective way of reaching out to your candidates, may no longer be sufficient. Okay, so with the job advertisement alone, we won't be able to reach candidates who may be open to new job opportunities, but would not apply to jobs for their own personal reasons. So in order to reach this particular group of candidates, you need to expand your options. And for this one, we are encouraging you to use the talent search service of JobStreet. Okay, so the fact that about 22% of these candidates made a career change despite not applying, it means that there are recruiters who have successfully engaged and persuaded these monitoring candidates to take up new job opportunities. It also means that a candidate's status is actually dynamic. So what we're saying is that given the right opportunity and right conditions, any candidate can be engaged to take on a new job opportunity. Okay, so let's talk more about what are the right opportunity and right conditions. Okay, so to answer that question, we actually try to understand the candidate's aspirations. In other words, what do candidates value most when they consider moving to a new career? So are they merely motivated by getting a higher salary? Okay, so here, if you look closer to our screen right now, we can see that salary still ranks the highest of the candidates' aspirations. No surprise there. However, there are also other factors like work-life balance, work environment, and career growth. These are the other aspirations of candidates that are also gaining traction. In fact, we think of the different candidates that these different candidates would have different stages in their careers, in their lives, and obviously they will be motivated by different things. That is why a good recruiter would always spend time, an extra time, to understand a candidate situation and their pain points when approaching a particular candidate. So, for example, a quick example that I could give to you this afternoon is that, for example, if we have a young candidate today, a post millennial, would obviously value salary over work-life balance, as that candidate obviously may not be financially sound yet. However, if we have another candidate who is a young parent with kids as well, that particular candidate would probably value more work-life balance over salary or even work environment, as that candidate would want to spend more time with his or her family. So again, I hope you have you get the idea of what we're trying to drive here in this particular slide. Every candidate, depending on their career, right now would have different aspirations to accept a new job opportunity. Okay, so the question then is, what can our company or our job offer to these candidates? Okay, so let's now take a look at what how we can actually expand the pool of candidates with dual channel approach. I'm sure you guys are very familiar with a single channel approach that is basically merely job posting. Okay, what we're actually encouraging you guys to perform would be for you to perform dual channel approach. Okay, I need to pause for a while as some of you are messaging that you can't hear me. Again, guys, a quick confirmation over at the chat box if you could hear me. Again, I would truly appreciate that before we move on. Okay, guys. One quick confirmation, if you guys could hear me loud and clear, would truly be appreciated before we move on any further. Okay, Richie, thank you for confirming. Thank you that you confirming that you can hear me loud and clear. All right. Okay. So getting back to our topic. Okay. So I was basically talking about how do you then increase your shortlisting pool. You can actually do that by performing the dual channel approach there. So the dual channel approach is basically supplementing your job posting activity with adding it with the talent search service of JobStreet.com. So other than you are basically waiting for candidates to respond to your job ads, you are also proactively looking at the entire data bank of JobStreet for the open profiles for you to be able to find out if any of those candidates that you're looking for are actually within our data bank. Okay, so as you can see for job posting, as you can see, hypothetically a good number would be about 10,000 matches. About 10% of that, 1,000 would actually view. About 10% or 100 would actually apply, and then you would be left by about 10 or 10% candidates, and then one candidate can be made an offer to this particular approach. However, for dual channel approach, you notice that the matching, viewing, and application for talent search is already taken out. Okay, that is because you already have an immediate access to the pool of candidates in the data bank of job sheet. Okay, a good number to start with your search would be around 15 retrievals, but please take note that it doesn't always follow that 15 downloads or retrievals would always equate to 15 interviews. So what you need to do is to have to be very careful when it comes to performing the search and performing the actual retrieval. Be very particular with the details. We will talk more about that, how to perform the actual searches in the next slides. Okay. Performing talent search may be more of an exploratory experience. You will definitely get better the more you get the hang of the system of how to perform the search. Okay, so when we talk about proactive sourcing, we are actually talking about these four stages that need to happen. So let's take a look at them more closely. First, upon receiving the job requisition from the hiring manager, the very first thing that need to happen is an alignment meeting with this hiring manager. Obviously, the hiring manager would be the best person to ask or to inquire regarding the details of the requirement of the candidate. This is basically a crucial step as it will directly affect the outcome and the effectiveness of your hiring. Please remember that any misalignment of expectations or sometimes unable to really identify the unrealistic expectations will definitely result in unnecessary delays. Okay? When both HR personnel and the hiring managers are aligned, then we can take the next step, which is basically to post an advertisement or to perform talent search. Thereafter comes the more challenging part of the process, which is for you to prepare prior to the interview with your candidates so that you can effectively engage and persuade the candidates to join your organization. So that's basically a quick overview of the four stages that need to happen when you're performing the multi-sourcing channel. Okay, so let's take a look at a closer look per stage. Okay, in the aligning expectation stage, we are actually trying to understand what the hiring manager is looking for. Having a job description is a good start. Basically, having a printed copy of the personal requisition is a good idea. Okay, but you need to be able to ask the right questions to your hiring manager to become more precise and specific with the type of candidate that you are going after. So the first thing that you need to nail down with the hiring manager is a list of the must-have, or you can actually come up with about three must-haves. So these are the non-negotiables. Okay, these three items must always be present as part of the profile of the candidate. If they don't have it, you cannot consider the candidate to move on to the next stage. In some cases, you may have more than three items. That's okay. You can park them as nice to haves, and you can actually use them later on. So once the must-haves are already in place, you can then look at some of the other requirements or what we call the unwritten preferences from the hiring manager. For example, probably a young hiring manager may be more inclined to hire a staff who is around or younger than his age. As of course, this particular young hiring manager may not be very confident in hiring someone older than him. Okay, so that's one of the what we call the unwritten preferences of the hiring manager, and that is something that needs to be clear on both parties when performing the initial preparation for performing talent search. Okay. Other than the requirements, it is also good to understand the more specific information about the job, such as is the position named differently in other industries or in other companies? Okay, that's one thing. What are the technical skills required for the position? That's another. Are there any companies or competitors who are currently looking for the same talent? Do you have any particular school that often produce the candidates that you are looking for? So all of this information will be very useful when you start looking for candidates in the talent search service. Okay, at the end of the day, our aim, JobStreet.com's aim is for you to fill the position as soon as possible so that the company can perform. Therefore, if hiring staff and the hiring manager can work hand in hand, you can be more effective and the company will definitely benefit from it. Okay, so let me show you a sample case study with the actual situation for you to be able to get a better idea on how this basically helps you, how talent search would definitely help you. So let me give you a quick background of the case study that we've actually conducted, wherein we actually aligned with a hiring manager. So a background of this company was this company is a small medium enterprise that specializes in nanotechnology cooling system. And at the time of this particular case study, they only had about 50 employees. They were having a hard time looking for sales engineers who must also be proficient in HVAC skill. Okay, they have quite minimal knowledge in talent search and doesn't know much about this particular approach. There was only one HR personnel in the company. Now, to help them source for a sales engineer, we actually sat down with the hiring manager, who also happens to be the CEO of the company, plus with the recruitment staff, and basically conducted a training on talent search, similar to what we're conducting to you this afternoon. Okay, so we then asked the hiring manager a few questions to further understand the position better. Okay, so for example, the educational requirement, which they actually told us that it is for a mechanical engineering graduate. The skill, obviously, we've identified as HVAC. If there are any alternate position title, the CEO actually told us that the position is actually a salesperson who needs to have engineering knowledge or as a background. Okay, so we agreed on putting sales as part of the position title. So from the sit down meeting, we also learned that they are actually fine to hire fresh graduates and they prefer candidates coming from the manufacturing industry. So with all the information that we have gathered, we were actually very much ready to perform the search. Okay, so as you can see, we have a summary here of the information taken from the inputs of the hiring manager. Okay, so this is a snapshot of the search that we did. We started with the keyword sales as the position titles, as you can see on the top part of your screen. Then we've added in a skill as mechanical engineering. If you look at the result at the bottom of the page, the system automatically returned with a lot of sales engineering candidates. Okay, which in this case perfectly matches the actual position that we are going after. This is actually thanks to the powerful algorithm built in the system and the machine learning from countless users like you. The system is returning relevant results and will continue to improve based on your usage behavior. So our recommendation is during your free time, go try to perform a bit of a search using talent search so the system will adapt to your search preferences. Now, to streamline the result further, we made use of the multifaceted filters. Okay, these are the filters at the left-hand side of your screen. Okay, and we've actually selected relevant locations in the preferred industry, in this case, such as manufacturing. There, as you can see, locations were selected, and then um, preferred industry, one of them would be manufacturing. Okay. Now, while the earlier result were actually relevant, we understand from the hiring manager that HVAC as a technical skill is highly desirable for this particular position. Therefore, we've added HVACs, as you can see on the top of your screen, as another keyword. And with this, on top of the sales engineering candidates, we now see technical sales engineer as part of the result. So these are candidates who have knowledge in HVAC, which are actually ideal candidates for the profiles that we are looking for. If you also notice, looking at again the left hand side of your screen, we also set the maximum salary cap for the result at Malaysian currency 5,000. So we are only looking at candidates within this particular range. Okay, so as you can see, it's very easy to perform. Therefore, let's find out the result. In the end, the company was able to retrieve about 6 candidates from Talent Search and was able to interview 3 candidates. Okay, so with the collaboration between the hiring staff and the hiring manager, they were able to quickly align and interview candidates within the first week of the month. So hopefully, it would also be the same experience in your own respective companies. It will help you speed up your recruitment process, and hopefully it will also land you the most qualified candidates out there in the market. Okay, so let's move on. Of course, the key success factor here is, please remember that you need to have the hiring manager's involvement at the very early stages of the recruitment process. Okay, so this is now moving on to the next stage, is our the part where we actually perform the actual talent search. And again, going back to the screenshot, similar to what you've seen earlier. Okay, now that we have done the groundwork to understand the position better, after sitting down with the hiring manager, you now have with you the information, the keywords that you will be using for the search. Okay, so all you have to do is to as easy as basically type them in the space provided for the talent search. Okay. We also highly recommend that you create additional users in the system, as this is absolutely for free. So please make sure to use to add in as many users as you need, who would be then given access to perform talent search. Okay. Okay, so to demo it to you very quickly, all right. So let's start. A usual search basically starts with the position title. If you notice, as you are typing, the system will actually display a list of auto suggestions of the commonly searched position titles. For example, if we were to type general manager, you will also see other related positions such as the following. Okay, senior general manager or assistant general manager. In this case, we will select general manager. Okay, in Malaysia alone, there are about 100,000 profiles being retrieved on a monthly basis. So we believe that you will also be able to find the most suitable candidates using the talent search service of JobStreet. Okay, searching by general manager alone, the position title would give you a very wide result. So you need to narrow down your search. For this particular search, the candidate that we are looking for need to have project management skills. So as easy as typing in as an additional skill, project management. As you notice, as you are typing, the system will then recommend, okay, the position that you are looking for, or the skill in this case that you are looking for, and then click that as a particular skill. Okay, so it's that easy. The more you use the system, the better the results will be, as the system is always learning from your usage pattern and will constantly improve the more you use our system. Okay, for this particular position as well, we also need the general manager to be exposed in some certain finance function. So just basically type their finance. Okay, so with these keywords, we can now then perform the search. Okay, so our recommendation is for you to perform the search first. Okay, and only after filtering will you be able to arrive at a pool of candidates that are relevant for your search. Okay, as you can see, this is the result of our search. There's the position title again, an added skill, and another keyword is added. Okay, so the candidates are now presented in a business card format with key information displayed for you to make quick decisions on whether to interview the full profile or not. Okay, so at a glance, you will be able to see the position title of the last 2 jobs with the company name and the duration of the work in the latest employment. Also, you can see the expected salary and highest educational level as part of the business card of the candidate. On the left-hand side, you will see the multifaceted filters again, where you can quickly streamline the result according to your preferences, whether that be location, industry, salary, nationality, language, and even the years of experience. For example, since we are looking for a general manager, you may want to set the minimum salary to about 10,000, for example, Malaysian currency, and perhaps set the minimum years of experience to about 8 years, so that you can exclude candidates who are too junior for this particular position. Okay, so on the right of each filter, you'll notice that if you look closer, you will know exactly how many candidates in the result pool fulfill the requirement that you have just specified. So in this way, you can quickly gauge the number of candidates in the search result and get an idea on the proper distribution of these candidates based on the filters that you have selected. Okay. Also, viewing the candidate's profile is very easy. All you have to do is to click on the business card, and the bottom part of the screen now becomes the profile of the candidate. The keywords will then be highlighted in yellow, so you can easily identify them in the profile. So if you notice, the keywords that we have typed are now highlighted. Okay, if you like what you see, you can immediately retrieve the profile by clicking on the Retrieve Resume button at the upper right-hand side of the screen. Okay, so to learn more about how to expand and narrow your search in Talent Search, we actually cover that in a different webinar where we share some ideas on Talent Search for commonly used positions, senior managers, and also niche ones. So I do hope you'd be able to attend that other webinar session on Talent Search in your next free time. Okay, so now that you have performed a line expectation and you're quite familiar on how to perform the actual talent search, we now have to be able to engage the candidates. And for that, you need to be able to prepare. You have to make sure that you are prepared. So earlier, remember the candidates insight that we shared to you earlier, right? Different candidates have different needs depending on their life stage where they are at, or depending on the career stage that they are in right now. So knowing that candidates have different aspirations, in some cases it might be work-life balance or career growth, we can then first look internally into our company and ask what can my company offer to this particular candidate? What is my company's vision? What can we as a company offer to this candidate to persuade the candidate? Okay, that's the first thing that you need to do. Secondly, you need to look externally. Okay, it's always good to be aware of what is being offered in the market, perhaps your closest competitors or at least the companies within the same industry, and find out what your competitors are doing to secure talents. Okay. All right. So we also have another webinar um, on talent search, which is basically called the keys to successful persuasion, where we actually drill deeper on the ways to engage and persuade your candidates. So please do check it out in your next free schedule. Okay, so let us now recap after going through the talent recruitment stage. First, we've actually learned that candidates availability is now dynamic. If you could remember, we actually started our discussion this afternoon by showing you the result of a pie graph. Um, and the candidate's availability depends very much on how they are engaged and what can our company offer. A monitoring candidate can be persuaded if we are able to fulfill their aspirations or even address the challenges that they are going through. In some cases, even going as far as addressing their pain points. So the bottom line here is that salary is no longer the only deciding factor for candidates to take on a new job. In the multi-sourcing landscape, while the job ad's still an effective way to reach candidates, proactive sourcing rather, is now gaining traction and is becoming a competitive way for you to source additional candidates. Also, we are seeing more and more hiring managers' involvement in the recruitment process, as this is a more efficient way of sourcing for candidates. Please remember that when expectations are aligned between you, from the very beginning, between you, the hiring staff, and the hiring manager, you will be able to hire faster. At the end of the day, please remember that everyone is a recruiter. And then finally, if you're interested to learn more about talent search, do sign up to our other webinars. I think I've mentioned about two of them in your next free time for you to learn more about these other webinars that we conduct for you, all for free, of course. All right, so we've actually come um, to our section wherein we can now review the questions, if any, that were sent over at the chat box. Or if you have any questions or clarifications, now is actually the best time for you to send them over so that we would be able to help address or at least clear them. If you have anything to share to the group, that would be very much beneficial in helping them perform talent search. That is also something that we very much welcome. Okay, so right now, are there any questions or clarifications? I looked at the chat box and there's actually none. I'm assuming that everything is all clear. I hope so. Okay, no questions at all? Nothing to add? All clear? All right, no problem. If you do have any questions later on, um, please feel free to get in touch with your local customer care support teams. I'm flashing to you right now the email addresses of our customer care teams where in the countries where JobStreet.com is operational. So please feel free to send them a message for any concerns at all, and we will be delighted to assist you. Okay? All right. Thank you everyone for spending about 30 minutes of your time this afternoon. May I also remind everyone that just before you leave our virtual room for the training this afternoon, we would truly appreciate it if you could give us your comments and suggestions, even your feedback on how else we could improve our trainings moving forward. We will truly appreciate all your comments and your suggestions. Okay, again, this has been Herbert Cruz, one of the senior customer relations officer here in JobStreet.com Philippines. I do hope to see you in our next webinar session on talent search. All right. And again, thank you for spending your time this afternoon with us. Thanks, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the day. Bye bye.